Welcome back to part 3 of this 4-part series, and in this episode we're going to learn how to use sequencer, keyframes, the color correction region, and how to attach everything to one item. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to get all of our plugins that we need loaded. So I'm going to tell you what I use here. The first thing you're going to want to enable, if it's not enabled already, is Movie Render Queue. Check that. If you want to do panoramic or 360 stuff, you can add this second one. The next thing you're going to want to search for is ProRes. You don't have to export in ProRes, you can export in EXRs or AVIs, but I like to export in ProRes, so that's how I do it. The next thing is Color Correction Region. CCR. Not many people use this, but we're going to be changing the way the dog looks with the color correction region. And that's really all we need for now. So let's go ahead and save our project and restart. Alright, so we are back in here and we've got all our plugins enabled. As you can see, our plane is back to just being a plane. So we need to create a level sequence. So we're going to add a sequence, tutorial sequence 1. And we are going to add in this plane. And to get the video on the screen, previously I showed you how to do that with the media player, but we're going to do that in the media track, which makes it work with sequencer. So go to media track, you'll see a media thing pop up here, click the plus sign next to it, go to media source, select dog or whatever you named it, extend it out, and then you're going to right click and then go to properties. And then you'll see media texture. This is where you select your media texture. So now you can see the dog is there. And if we extend this further, we can change the sequence. Right now it's 165 frames. We want to do 15 seconds, which is 360 frames. So we're going to extend this out. It's 350 at 24 frames a second. So let's change the sequencer to 24. And then add on 360. Then we'll extend everything else. Okay, so you'll see there's a slit right here. That means that's when the video ends and the new video loops back over. Luckily with this clip, you can see it kind of works as a loop because his stopping point and a starting point are very close to each other. So we can use this as a loop, but now we have video playing in a sequence. So the next thing we need to do is add a color correction region. So we'll go to place actors and you'll type in color. Now that you've enabled that plugin, you'll see this pops up. So let's bring this, we're gonna surround the dog with this. Let's get closer. So currently it's a sphere, and if we change the temperature to 1500, you'll see that that sphere is affecting the dog. You can see there's a roll off, that's this inner thing. We can actually hard set it or make it really soft, like a soft glow on them. That's kind of a good tip for adding fake lights, is to do a very soft roll off glow there. But for this, we're going to be putting it pretty high, about 0.9. 0.7 is good. And then we're going to change it to a box. So you can see it's affecting everything around it. I usually like to go over the top of it and then adjust the X and Y. 0.2, maybe even 0.1. Get as thin as you can, because it's just got to go over this thin little 2D image. Then we'll move it back a little. We can move it over. Okay. Alright, so we don't have to get too precise with moving things right now, because when we attach stuff, we're going to have to zero everything out and then reposition it anyways. But you can see the color, we'll probably set that to around 5000. What we'll do next is go in here and adjust the color grading settings. So We'll stay behind the window here because this is what we're going to see from the camera. From global, I like to change the contrast, usually bump it up to about 1.4, maybe 1.5. Notice that made them darker right there. So I'm just going to fast forward through this, and typically you want to start on your colors and do the global, get the contrast, the saturation and all that right. Then move into your shadows and then your midtones. Usually in the highlights you don't really have too much that you can change, but once you play around with it enough you will start getting familiar with how to color grade. Here's the before and after. Much better. A lot of people don't know about this color correction region trick, so make sure you use this if you're color grading any green screen footage. We're going to bring in all of our items that are moving or attached to something that's moving into the sequence. So we already have the plane in here. We have the media. We're going to bring in the color correction region. We're going to bring in the car. And we're going to add some lights. So I'm going to bring in a spotlight. And we'll just, again, we're going to have to change the position of all this in a minute. What else do we need? We need a camera. Now, you don't really want to use this create new camera because it creates a spawnable camera. And if you have things attached to each other, some are spawnable, some are not spawnable, you end up with problems. Things don't move right or they don't attach right. So instead of creating a spawnable camera here, we're just going to go and create a regular cine camera here. And then we're going to add that into the sequence. And now we can control it and figure out where we're going to be shooting from. So we're not going to try to capture the wheels on this because they are not moving. So we're going to try to stay in this area. So we're going to set our spot here. And I'll hit transform on the camera. So the camera is going to be locked here right now. Now we're going to start attaching everything to the car, because the car is what we're going to control the movement of. You could attach everything to the camera and just move the camera, but we're going to do the car because that's what's really moving. So we're going to attach the plane to the car, and you attach everything in sequencer. You go to track, attach, and tell the plane to attach to the Mustang. We're going to go to this color correction region and attach it to the Mustang as well. So we're going to take the spotlight, we're going to attach that to the Mustang as well. And then we're going to take the camera and attach that to the Mustang as well. So now we need to change the position of everything to 0. Okay, so this camera is under the car now. We are going to reset our position for the camera. Now we're going to get the dog back at 0, 0, 0. Where's he at? Plane. Oh, he's underneath it. So let's bring him up. Bring him over. Now we're going to get the color correction region onto the dog. And if the car moves, they should move. Let's see. Yep. Camera's moving, color correction region's moving, and the dog's moving, all with the car. Alright, so the last thing is to get the lighting right. The skylight, I'm going to change that intensity to 0.5. Okay, so that's going down. We want it going kind of sideways. Okay, right about there. That's looking good. All right, the next step is to move all of these little attachment bars to cover the full timeline. All right, and then we're going to start at the beginning on frame 0. And we are going to hit a keyframe for the car. So we're going to hit transform on frame 0, right where it's at. Then we're going to go to 180 midway through. I'm going to hit shift, left click and drag this. Probably far enough. Let's do another keyframe. Now we're going to see what that looks like. Alright, that's looking pretty good actually. Alright. I think we want to keep it going further. And the road ends there. So we can make it turn. Let's try this. So after the turn, there was actually a hill, and that took me a lot longer than I thought it would to animate. So I'm just going to save you guys the trouble and fast forward through this. Now we need to add camera shake, and we need to add the car going up and down. So let's go ahead and do the car first. So you can simply just create multiple little keyframes every 5 frames or so. Let's see how that looks. Bring in the Z up and down by a few. So we're on the 5th one. We're negative 172. We're going to try negative 178. I don't know why the car is doing that. Okay, there we go. Alright, now we're going to make the camera move. Let's create a camera shake. Okay, so to add camera shake, we're going to go to our content drawer. We're going to right click. We're going to create a new folder, call it shake. Go in here, right click, create a blueprint class. And for all classes, you want to drop that down and search for shake. We're going to look for camera shake base. So go to that and select it. Call it camera shake. Double click on it. You'll notice this graph comes up, but if you close it and reopen it, the graph doesn't come up. You have a simpler interface. We are going to check for root shake pattern. We're going to do Perlin noise camera shake pattern. And if we look at all this, we're going to leave this default for now, but we can change this later. We're going to go into our camera. We're going to go to track, and we're going to go to camera shake, and then we're going to select the blueprint we just made. Okay, so with that selected, we're going to go to back to our camera, and you'll see camera shake here. We're going to extend this out so it covers the full scene. And let's see how this looks. The camera shake is stopping after about a second because of one of these settings. Okay, so yeah, duration. You have to change that from 1 to 0 to make it infinite. Now the camera shake should be happening the full time. You can see a little bit of it. think we need a little more. I'm gonna just set these to 5 and see what happens. Yeah, that's a little too much. Let's do 2. Save. Not bad. Probably leave one at like 1.7 and one at 1.3. One going up and down should be bumpier. Yeah, that's much better. Okay, so now we need to animate the camera a little bit and move it in and out. That's not just right there at the same distance. Let's go ahead and go to transform for the camera. Right here, we'll move it up. Probably end like that. So we'll just do a slow zoom in the whole way. And let's see what happens here. Camera should be getting tighter. Turning. Looks pretty good. All right, so honestly, that is the basics of animating. Obviously, there's stuff with Mixamo and iRig and IK retargeters. We're not going to get into that. And to do a real shoot, you want the dog at least 2 angles. So a front angle is great for one shot, but you got to be able to cut to a side shot. So you really want to film somebody at 2 different angles. We don't have that right here, so I might add a bonus clip where I film my own dog in both angles, and maybe I'll put my dog in the driver's seat and this dog in the passenger seat. And whenever I want to switch to side shot, my dog will be covering the dog in the passenger seat so you wouldn't see him. Maybe I'll do that on a bonus, but that is about it for this video. I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick little render and show that. And in the next one, I will show you guys the real render settings that we're gonna use for this. As always, like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.